Hey friends, Jeff here with mixpractice.com and missionmusician.com. I got a short video for you today on distorting vocals. So I'm working on a mix for a band called Walkney, and they sent a reference track with a mix, which I love, by the way. So if you're sending your songs off to be mixed by someone else, include a reference track in kind of the vein that you want the song to sound like, excuse me. And so I'm going to play just a second of this reference track so you can hear what's going on here.
Romans are gone, they changed their name because they lost. She writes letters like a jack chick comic, just a bunch of propaganda, make my fingers histrionic like this.
Alright, and the main thing that I'm focusing on today is the vocal. This is a very aggressive vocal. You can hear that it has distortion in it. It's got kind of a slapback delay, which I'm not going to go into delay or anything today. Today I'm just going to talk about how to get that type of distorted, aggressive sound and yet still have the vocal legible, so you can understand kind of what it's doing. So I've got I don't have the song finished yet. I'm just kind of working on it. So I've got the vocals, what we're gonna do bypassed, and I'm gonna turn this up so you can hear the vocal.
By the name of Reach, he was an angel. Here's a couple things he said to me. He told me, boy, you better listen, because if you don't, they'll wrap your hands around your neck and hold you down until you choke. Before I heard these words, I walked along so easily, but let me tell you all a story about the time I faced.
Alright, so it was recorded well, but it doesn't sound anything like the reference track. So I've done several things to get it kind of close for now, so I can kind of mix around it. I actually started with a vocal on this song and tried to build that kind of sound in the vocal. So let me show you how we got there. So I started off with just a vintage filter. This is a stock plugin from Pro Tools. And let's bypass that really quick. And so let me solo the vocal here. So really the only thing I adjusted was I switched this to a high pass filter and rolled off to about 91 and then increased this fat button here. I'm not even sure what this does, but I just twisted the knob to where it sounded good, which is kind of what mixing is about. So let's listen to what this does. It's not a huge drastic difference, but let's listen.
Burrow by the name of Reach, he was an angel. Here's a couple things he said to me. He told me, boy, you better listen, because if you don't, they'll wrap your hands around your neck and hold you down until you choke.
Alright, so it's giving it a tiny bit of grit. Alright, so the next thing I added was the air distortion by Pro Tools. It's just a stock plugin, and you'll notice that the drive isn't up very much at all. If I turned it up, it would really distort it, and I've got the mix back off just a little bit. So let's listen to this.
Burrow by the name of Reach, he was an angel. Here's a couple things he said to me. He told me, boy, you better listen, because if you don't, they'll wrap your hands around your neck and hold you down until you choke.
Alright, so that is getting us closer to that sound. It's making it much more aggressive. Alright, and then I followed that up by an 1176, the Bluey. Well, let's listen to what this is doing.
Burrow by the name of Reach, he was an angel. Here's a couple things he said to me. He told me, boy, you better.
Alright, so that's bringing up more of that distortion sound. And then I wanted to work on the top end a little bit, so I just put a little boost here at 1.2. Bypass that and bring it in.
Burrow by the name of Reach, he was an angel. Here's a couple things he said to me. He told me, boy, you better listen, because if you don't, they'll wrap your hands.
Alright, so that's a good vocal frequency there to boost. And then I followed it up by just doing a little bit of top end, not much here. Did another boost around 1.8 and then did a shelf at around 5. So let's listen to that, and probably the shelf could be moved up closer to 8, which I may do if it starts getting a little too essy.
Burrow by the name of Reach. He was an angel. Here's a couple things he said to me. He told me, boy, you better listen, because if you don't, they'll rap.
All right, so let's listen to the before, and I'll bring all these back in.
Burrow by the name of Reach. He was an angel. Here's a couple things he said to me. He told me, boy, you better listen, because...
All right, now let's listen to it in the track.
Burrow by the name of Reach. He was an angel. Here's a couple things he said to me. He told me, boy, you better listen, because if you don't, they'll wrap your hands around your neck and hold you down until you choke.
All right, so it gives it that much more aggressive sound, and it's closer to the reference track. So the last thing I want to show you is I increased, I just duplicated this. These are 3 of the same tracks, and I was playing around, just experimenting on this track, and then I decided to duplicate the original track right here, down here, and just copy these plugins down, but I've added a distortion, or I'm sorry, I've added a delay. This one up here has no reverb on or delay on it yet. That's a big part of the sound, so I want to spend a good amount of time there dialing it in. It sounds like from the reference track it's just kind of a slapback delay, but it's EQ'd pretty aggressively, so I'm going to work on that in a little bit. But so on this one, like I said, I just copied down, and let me take this off here. I just copied down these same effects here, and the only thing I adjusted was I turned the drive up on the distortion to give it a more aggressive sound. So let me show you what that sounds like going into the chorus here, which is right here.
Los Angeles, the land of telling lies. Listen! Just listen!
Right, so it's even more aggressive there. So if you want to make an aggressive vocal, what you have to keep in mind is an aggressive vocal isn't super clear. It's got some hair and some grit in it, and you can use just stock plugins like Distortion and maybe a vintage filter. You can use tape saturation. I'm eventually going to have the vocals running through VTM, and I did pre-process this vocal with an analog emulation chain that I like to use on Slate's VMR. And I really cranked up the preamp. Another way you can do this is, let's see here. So another way you can get saturation in a vocal is using something like a preamp emulation. And I just didn't like the tonality that it was giving me, but it's definitely doable. If you just take one of these and let me get back to this verse here.
I met another man whose name I cannot mention, so he said I was a star, but the truth was very hard. He said he wanted me.
Okay, so that's essentially doing the same thing as the distortion. It's just, I don't know, it's kind of a little brighter and more focused on the upper mids, and I just didn't like the way it sounded, but it's definitely doable by using preamp emulation. You could use tape saturation if you wanted to. It's a little bit more subtle if you do it with tape saturation, and let's see here. Not exactly sure I can even get it to distort with this, but let's try.
I met another man whose name I cannot mention, so he said I was a star, but the truth was very hard. He said he wanted me, needed me, believed in me, would.
Yeah, so it's definitely distorting there. It's just a much more subtle way to do it. and I wasn't going for subtle on this. I was going for a really aggressive vocal sound. So this is a couple different ways that you can distort vocals and make them more aggressive. So thanks for watching. Subscribe if you like these videos. You can go over to missionmusician.com and download my free mixing tutorial. And if you'd like, you can join us over at mixpractice.com. We're having a lot of fun over there. So thanks for watching, and I'll see you again real soon in a new video. Bye-bye.